in their local government, Lord, in their local communities. Lord, we pray for those who may be sick, Lord, who need healing, and we pray for those who need comfort, Lord. We ask you to continue to watch over our government. We ask you to watch over all of our employees as they continue to do your work and the work for our citizens. And most of all, Lord, we ask that you put a hedge of protection around our city council. Continue to bless each and every one of our families, Lord. Be with us during this Thanksgiving holiday. In your holy name we do pray. Amen.
Take the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Warner.
Here.
Councilmember Bovair.
Here.
Councilmember Goins.
Here.
Councilmember Koss.
Here.
City Attorney Garganese. City Manager Tkanich. Assistant City Manager Fuhrer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We can move on to approval of our agenda and minutes. We got our agenda from the regular meeting of 2013-2019. What is the wishes of the council? This is for the agenda.
Yes,
Yeah, we
for
need
the
to have
agenda.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for the agenda, I wanted to pull 2 items from consent. Pull item number 6-3, make it city business 9-4, and item number 6-7, make it city business 9-5.
Okay. City business. 9-4 and 5. Okay, you said, okay, on the city business, we only have the 2 items, so you mean 3 and 4.
Well, most of
There
your
are 3
contracts.
items if you, they're, I don't have.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
okay, I see
So
the
it's
multi-year.
number 4 and number 5.
Number 4 and 5, I got you. Okay. Okay, and then also, if we can, include in the motion, let's move the reports to the very end there. Make that after city business.
You want to make reports number 9 or number 10 and move informational? Okay. So put it right in there between city business and information.
And information,
Okay.
yes. And that's the reports.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So just to be clear, those items are being below the multi-year contracts?
Yes.
Well,
So, because they're not multi-year contracts, did you want to move the number 3 to the end then? And then
yeah, move 3 to the end and then
Okay.
have 4 and 5,
be the new 2 and 3?
the 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Or 3 and 4.
Okay.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Motion to approve is amended.
We got a motion from Deputy Mayor Warner,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on to our minutes from our regular meeting of September 11th, 2019, and then the minutes from regular meeting of September the 25th, 2019, and the minutes from regular meeting October the 9th, 2019.
I would like to make
Councilwoman Cost.
a motion to approve the minutes for September 11th with the following modification. On page 3, paragraph 5, sentence 3, replace what says SORREL, S-O-R-R-E-L, with the actual acronym, which is SOIRL, Save Our Indian River Lagoon Program. Add the word program. And St. John's, and then strike for that. Strike sentence 5 and replace with Dr. DeFries advised there is a science and innovation category, and the IRLNEP, that's an acronym, is here to serve communities like Cocoa, and then strike paragraph 6, just to make that report more understandable. Make a motion
We got a
to
motion,
approve those minutes with that modification.
we got a motion from Councilwoman Cox,
Second.
second from Councilman Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on to awards and presentation, but before we get started with awards and presentation, I wanna recognize a young man that's in here. He's in here to get, I guess, for one of his badges, and that's Mr. Efren Sidabaka. This young man right here. And if we can, I'd like to go out front and let us take a picture with him real quick. If you all don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. And our first item on awards and presentation, we have a proclamation on Hot Cocoa Days. And
Hot Cocoa Holidays.
well, holidays, I'm sorry. Councilman,
Dave.
yeah.
You want me to read that?
Yes, ma'am, if you don't mind.
Okay. Whereas December 13th is National Cocoa Day, and whereas hot cocoa holidays have been created to highlight all the great events and activities that occur in and around Cocoa Village during the holiday season, and whereas Hot Cocoa Holidays is a calendar of 17 events presented by the City of Cocoa, Historic Cocoa Village Main Street, the Historic Cocoa Village Playhouse, and other community partners, including the City of Rockledge, Brevard County Parks and Recreation. Now therefore I, Mary Jake Williams Jr., on behalf of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Florida, do hereby proclaim November 30th through December 31st as Hot Cocoa Holidays
I like
Month.
that. Yeah, yeah. Hot cocoa.
Is this, what is this,
Yes,
a
ma'am, we
photo
could-
op or
We
what?
can go out and take a picture with them. You want to do it afterward? Okay, sure. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, Emma.
so, do the presentation?
Yeah, I think she's going to do it now.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Is that it?
Oh yeah, that's it. We're done.
Good job, Emma.
Was that good? Computer's as fast as mine. Right. Okay. Round about May 2019, a new fellow named Daryl came to town with new experiences and a different background. And he got together with Alan. And conversations started happening, and thoughts started flying, and ideas started taking shape. How do we get residents and visitors alike to think of Cocoa first when they think of the holidays? How do we get them to spend their holidays with us? A month-long celebration centered around Cocoa is the place to be, to shop and play for the holidays. But we need a concept. We need a gimmick.
So Daryl comes up with, this thing, hot cocoa holidays, keeps going around in my head, and that sounds great. This is at lunch. So by the time we got to dessert, I said, that would sound great if we put it over a whole bunch of events that happen in the holidays. Hot cocoa holidays was born.
Brilliant! We love it. We already do so much during the holiday season. What can we include in our new initiative?
Well, we have Friday Fest, 2 days after Christmas, at Merck Park Square, with vendors, food trucks, drinks, and a great band.
Mm.
And November 30th is Shop Small Saturday. We have Shop Small Sip and Stroll.
And we have the Art and Craft Holiday Bazaar.
That's right.
We also have Santa Paws the same.
We have the ships coming for the Sail to the Sun Rally.
And then we have an annual parade and tree lighting event.
Oh, and we have a lot of events at the Playhouse, including White Christmas, November 22nd, and on December 23rd, we're on screen. We're going to show It's a Wonderful Life.
Right.
That's great. All really fantastic stuff, but we need more.
How about a kickoff concert the Friday before the holiday craft show? And we can have local bands and make it free for the public. And we can even have unwrapped toys for the toy drive for the Cocoa Police Department.
Super!
Well, Friday the 13th is National Cocoa Day. We are the only city with its own national day. We really should do something.
How about a cocoa competition? A culinary celebration of everything cocoa, with food and beverage establishments coming up with unique uses of cocoa and dishes where the public gets to vote for their favorites. We can call it Just a Touch.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. Anyone else?
Oh, wait! What if we had an awesome bike parade around the village where everyone can decorate their bikes and bring their friends and family out and win prizes?
Yeah.
Ooh, that is really great stuff, everybody. I think that we have a plan. Now, how are we going to brand it?
Ooh, I have an idea. Go.
Yes! And that's how Hot Cocoa Holidays came to be. Everybody?
Holidays with that.
And we have presents. You have to give out your presents. Don't forget.
What are you all trying to do to us?
Emma, you guys need Stacy for direction. I'm sorry. You need a director. Call Stacy.
Let's go.
No,
Now, did you
I don't
still want to do the photo op?
Yes, I don't want to be seen.
Thank you so much. I was gonna say, you guys should have called Stacy.
Yeah, hot cocoa. Hot cocoa.
Aw, thank you. All right.
Oh. Your polish. You threw it, council.
I'm in there.
It takes a village.
Don't get too comfortable. We got two more.
Jake, I want to see you on that bike.
I can do it.
Yeah, right.
You can stand up and walk.
What was,
Yeah, you could stand up and walk on it.
wait a minute. What was that all about, Anthony? I heard that about the bike, but I said I can do it. Thank you, folks. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item on the award and presentation, which is a presentation of the 2019 Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. And we got an award here. It's from the Government Finance Officers Association. Award presented to the City of Cocoa, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2019. And we're going to bring this up, ma'am, and is there a presentation, Matt, as well? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. I'm just way ahead of myself.
Greetings from the Government Finance Officers Association. I'm Chris Morrill, GFOA's Executive Director. It is my honor to announce that the City of Cocoa, Florida has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. The purpose of this award program is to encourage and assist governments to prepare comprehensive and understandable budget documents, to improve transparency and trust in government. To earn the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, the City of Cocoa met demanding program criteria. Such a record reflects the professionalism, commitment, and dedication of your organization's leaders. This is the 5th time that the City of Cocoa has won this award, and the first time in over 20 years. Program reviewers in particular praised the strategic goals section of the budget. Nice job. We hope that this award to the City of Cocoa will serve as an example and encourage others to strive for the same high standards in their own budget documents. Therefore, it is my privilege, on behalf of the Government Finance Officers Association, to present to the City of Cocoa this Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. Congratulations.
As you present this, I'd like to bring my budget staff up. Without them, I couldn't have gotten this award for the city.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Bring him up. Let's go again. Yeah, I told you. Put my chair down here.
Come on, man, I'll make this for you.
Move my chair here, right? Thank you, good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Oh, you. You said good job.
Okay.
Time for a break.
We got one more item to awards, and thank you, ma'am. We got one more item on the awards and presentation, which is a proclamation proclaiming December 1st, 2019 as World AIDS Day. Could you read it for me, please, ma'am?
Okay, well, this is a little more somber than our other presentations, but whereas the global spread of HIV infection and AIDS necessitates a worldwide effort to increase communication, education, and action to stop the spread of HIV/AIDS, and whereas the joint United Nations program on HIV/AIDS observes December 1st of each year is World AIDS Day, a day to expand and strengthen the worldwide effort to stop the spread of HIV/AIDS. And whereas UN AIDS estimates that 37.9 million people are currently living with HIV/AIDS worldwide, and that an estimated 1.7 million individuals became newly infected in 2018, and in Florida there were an estimated 135,200 people living with HIV in 2017, and of that number, 18,300 were unaware of their HIV status, and whereas there are an estimated 1.2 million people living with HIV in the United States, and just under 40,000 new HIV diagnoses each year, and it is estimated that 15% of individuals living with HIV do not know their status, and whereas the Florida Department of Health has identified routine HIV and STD testing, rapid access to treatment and retention and care, access to pre-exposure prophylaxis, and increased HIV outreach awareness and community response as 4 key components to prevent HIV infection. And whereas the World AIDS Day theme is Communities Make the Difference, and the day provides the opportunity to renew commitment to increase awareness of HIV in the city of Cocoa, decrease new cases of HIV infection, and reduce stigma in the community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jake Williams, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, do hereby proclaim December 1st as World AIDS Day in the City of Cocoa, and urge all citizens to participate in activities and observances designed to increase awareness and understanding of HIV/AIDS as a global challenge.
And just to add, this is all about awareness, and a lot of folks, you don't hear too much about AIDS anymore, but it's still there. And I thank this little group for bringing this forward to us. And if we can go down and.
Do you need
So
it?
we're
Sure.
from the
Did you
Space
wanna-
Coast World AIDS Day Committee.
Yes, ma'am. If you want
We
to.
just have just a little tiny bit to
Yes,
add
ma'am.
to this.
Okay.
Last year, more people were diagnosed with HIV and AIDS than the population of the city of Cocoa, Port St. John, and Sharps put together. And then so the 3 top cities with the most HIV rates are in Florida, number 9 being Jacksonville, number 6 Orlando, and number 2 Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
In the state of Florida, it's roughly estimated about 119,680 are living with HIV, and we're estimating about 5,000 every year being diagnosed.
Wow.
On December 1st, we identify as World AIDS Day being the 31st annual from the United Nations, and I'm kind of nervous, so bear with, I don't do people well. And the epidemic has been going on for 38 years. In that 38 years' time, HIV has become the 8th deadliest disease in human history. So therefore, rather than having the Space Coast World AIDS Day in Melbourne like we do normally, we decided to have it in Cocoa this year to make a center location and to create a point where more people can attend and be a part of it.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you.
And we hope that you will come to our vigil, which we are having on the at 4 o'clock on World AIDS Day, December the 1st every year, and it's going to be at the Metropolitan Methodist Baptist Church.
The Metropolitan Missionary
Missionary
Baptist
Baptist
Church on King Street.
And you are all invited to come.
It's
Everybody's invited to come. We hope the community will come out. Last year, we invited lots of people, but the community really didn't come out. So we hope that this year, we will really see the community come out in Cocoa.
Most people don't realize that HIV and AIDS is still present even from the 80s and 90s. It's still out there, it's still deadly, and the numbers are still growing. So by more participation and having outreach out there, we're hoping that finally we can eradicate this disease in hopefully my lifetime.
All right. Thank you,
So,
sir.
Thank
so
you.
that was Sunday, December 1st. What was the time again?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. And we have flyers, and I will leave extra out in the lobby.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna move on to item number 4, which is our delegations. And first up, we have Ms. Anita Gibson. If you could please come up and state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Anita Gibson. I live at 451 Stone Street in Cocoa, Florida. I have two, I don't know if I call them major issues, but I have two issues that I want to be told to me. The first is I would like to have at least the last 3 minutes of the meetings that we've had the second and fourth Wednesday of each month. The second thing is I want an update, or however the chain of command goes, an update on the last time I was here to speak on the cold case unit for murder cases, possibly the billboards. I want to be updated and not being a feeling of I'm thrown in the back burner because it's not relevant to whomever as far as the budget. And I think all of the cold case unit billboards are mandated by a budget. We can only get X amount of dollars for a cold case unit. We only have maybe 4 officers we can lend to that unit. I want to be updated on what's going on with the murder cases more or less. And I'll keep coming, I'll keep asking because it's relevant to me and to the citizens of Cocoa to know that we are, something's being done as far as murder and the families that are affected deeply by the murders. And the billboards in the cold case unit are my main priority to let me know however the chain of command goes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I got that disc for you out of my vehicle.
Thank you.
But Chief, if you can, I know you sent us an email with references something you were doing after that meeting. I saw it like a week later or something like something about the, I guess our police website or.
Yeah, we actually, FDLE had a new initiative and we've started uploading cases, and they're not all cold cases. We started uploading these cases to their website. There's a portal where the general public can access some of it, and then there's also a portal where law enforcement can access. So it's, again, a way to get the information out so that people in the community, people throughout the state of Florida, I mean, pretty much anybody that accesses FDLE's website can see these different cold cases or different cases, for lack of better terms, unsolved cases that are out there. We're hoping to get, a wider view, get more people to look at it, and hopefully get some tips on some different cases. We've looked at a lot of the cases. Some of them, just currently don't have any solvability to them right now. But some of them are, we're hoping that somebody will see some of these different posts on FDLE's website and other areas and hopefully call in and give us some tips.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
ma'am. Councilman Goins.
Outside of the website, is there a protocol where, just say someone gets murdered, 2 years ago, is there something like every few months they get kind of like, hey, look, we still are doing X, Y, Z, or is it some kind of or do they have to call the police department and get the update?
No, the detectives will make contact usually at least once a month. I know I've met with several people, including Ms. Gibson, on a monthly basis myself to talk to her about her son's case and anything that's changed or anything that she may have. But again, we encourage the community, if you have any information on any of these cases, and people know what the cases are, what's out there, we encourage them to either go to Crime Line. You can report them on Crime Line to 1-800-TIPS. You're anonymous. We get those tips, and most of them there's between $1,000 and a $5,000 reward. So, again, we encourage people to report those. But, we'll follow the cases. And like I said, once a month, there's a reportability where whatever detective has that case reaches out to the family and just gives them an update. Sometimes after a point, there isn't really anything, but we still try to reach out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor Warner.
Yeah, just a quick question. Chief, the The billboards that Ms. Gibson is talking about, are those done by Crime Line?
Most of them are done by Crime Line. On occasion, and I know in the Jonte Thomas case and her son's case, we were able to get Crime Line to put the information up on several billboards throughout basically Central Florida. And we try to encourage that. Unfortunately, a lot of times, Crime Line is located out of more of the Orlando area, so we don't get sometimes as much extra help, but we constantly reach out to them to try to get, stuff from them and to get different things. We've had times where we've had family members go on different newscasts, radio casts, any way that we can get information out there and hopefully get somebody to come forward.
Are we going to have the state attorney's office do their victim event this December like they normally do?
We are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be sending something out on that here shortly for our victims, our homicide victims memorial.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Okay, and next up we have Donna Kettner.
Donna Kettner, 103 Derby Street. Good evening to all the council members, city staff. I just quickly wanted to go over a few things. I have some pictures on my phone that I can share with you at a later date. You remember probably when I came and said that the grease was being poured behind my building. Now they're just blatantly don't care. Now they're just throwing it right down on the street. So I have pictures of this. I also had surveillance cameras installed at my store this past week. Of course, I care about my property, so I plant flowers. They've been ripped out, and I know I have pictures of seeing who did it at 2 in the morning. Don't know these people, but that's what's going on at 2 in the morning. When I was having my cameras installed, I care about the cleanliness of the sidewalks, and I know that you've invested in a steam cleaning machine, but we have to start doing this on a quarterly basis. The sidewalks are filthy again. That back alleyway between my building and Pub Americana is absolutely black with grease. Before I had my building painted a couple of years ago, that was all pressure washed, that was clean. When the guy was installing the cameras on the back of the store, he says there's dead rats in all of the gutters of the buildings, and I said, you got to be kidding me. Well, when you have the rat traps out, they're going to kill them with poison, and then they're going to go somewhere and they're going to die. But nobody's cleaning them up, and it stinks really bad. So I think I have all the right in the world to come before you and say there's a problem with cleanliness in the village. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I think as a city, we should be able to clean it better than we're doing. The other thing, I'm up here just very quickly. I know we have a new bar in town. I live on Derby Street. I called the police department on Friday and Saturday night. I think we have a noise ordinance, but the music was going on at 11:30, 12:30, and after 1 o'clock on Saturday night. I lowered all my shutters, my storm shutters, everything to try to block the noise out. I remember many years ago, Norman's had the same problem. They had loud music, and the residents of the village were disturbed by this. This is disturbing. 2100, I spoke to people who live there. They can hear it. I can hear it. Neighbors can hear it. I don't want to be a nuisance, but it's a problem when you work all weekend and you want to go to sleep and you can't because the music is so loud.
Do you know where it's coming from?
I think it's coming from the new George and Dragon place, because they said it wasn't Murdoch's. But I don't even have to sit outside on my front porch to hear it. I slept in my family room because they couldn't sleep in my front bedroom. That's how noisy it was. And I'm not against concerts, and I'm not against things, closing at 11 o'clock at night. But when it goes on till wee hours of the morning, then it's a concern of mine. And it's not only me that hears it. I'm the only one here tonight, but I did actually talk to people from 2100, because I know they have to hear that noise bouncing off the back end of their building. So maybe, we can live up to the ordinance of no rock and roll bands after 11 o'clock at night. That would be terrific. Thank you very much. You have a nice evening.
Do you want anything? You like some? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I did want to ask.
Good. Councilwoman Cox.
Well, just the point about the steam cleaning or the power washing. How often do we do that?
Just this past year, it was budgeted, and it's done on an annual basis at this point. As far as all the sidewalks, they do hit certain areas like Murtharp Square in partnership with some of the other organizations more regularly, but there are requirements for the sidewalk cafes as well to maintain their areas as far as the cleanliness. And
Well, I was wondering about, because when we have these festivals, that certainly adds to it as well, and the shopkeepers aren't really responsible for that. But that's not really incorporated into the expenses that when we have these festivals.
there is a cleanup associated with it, but it doesn't contemplate pressure washing.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So,
Usually Mardi Gras is when we really need the pressure washing, is after Mardi Gras.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, and that's all we have on the delegation. And we're going to move on to our consent agenda.
Motion
Second.
We got a motion from Councilman Bover, a second from Deputy Mayor Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to our public hearings. And I'm hoping that the city attorney would kind of go through this like he did at the Planning and Zoning Board in case there's any questions, and make it a little bit easier when you're talking about U1 versus the M1, or IU versus the M1 with the county. But you can go ahead.
I added some slides.
Yes, ma'am.
To the So as I did with P&Z, we're going to take these one at a time. I'll give you one presentation at the beginning, kind of encompass the background, and then give you the details of each of the ordinances as we go through the process. The City of Cocoa is the applicant for all of these. We're requesting to amend the zoning map designation, a total of 36 parcels, roughly totaling 160 acres. These parcels are broken up into 8 groups based on their current zoning designation and the proposed city zoning designation. And as I said, there were separate ordinance drafted for each of these batches of parcels. The individual rezoning ordinances are part of a larger Cox Road corridor study area, the purpose of which was to identify and address parcels lying within the Cocoa city limits and having a City of Cocoa future land use designation, but without a City of Cocoa zoning designation. Study was undertaken as part of a long-range effort to comply with the city's comprehensive plan requirement that the city eliminate inconsistencies between the official zoning map and the future land use map. 2 of the parcels that were in the original study area, 31 and 32 on the map, have been withdrawn by staff at this time to give us a little time for additional analysis. So this was the map of the whole study area. It's all the west side of Cox Road and east of 95 and running between 524 and 520. And we started at the north end and worked our way south. The parcels were annexed in batches 1 through 17 were actually annexed in 2004, 18 to 32, and 34 through 38 were annexed in 2006, and parcel 33 was annexed in 2007. And future land use designations for those parcels were also done in groups. Parcels 1 through 17 were assigned industrial future land use in 2004. Parcels 18 to 38 were assigned industrial future land use, and parcels 34 to 37 were assigned a commercial future land use in 2006, and parcel 33 was assigned a commercial future land use in 2010. In accordance with Appendix A's Article 21, Section 1G, there are 16 criteria that are considered whenever we look at a rezoning. They address things such as the land use pattern that's established in the area, population density, comprehensive plan, living conditions in the adjoining neighborhoods, traffic congestion, public safety, drainage, property value, public welfare, and other items. And those findings are in your individual staff reports. In terms of consistency with a comprehensive plan, the proposed zoning designations of these ordinances are all consistent with the allowable uses under the future land use designation of each related ordinance per the City of Cocoa Comprehensive Plan. And concurrency, we would look at that at a later date. And in terms of past actions, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of these ordinances at its meeting on November 6th of this year. So for the first ordinance, 14-2019, there are 20 parcels. They are all on the west side of Cox Road. They're shown here in a hatch in the map. The white spaces in between that do not, this is plugged in? Yes. So this parcel, and then this row of parcels were not included because they already have M1 zoning under the City of Cocoa. So we're only looking at those parcels that don't have zoning. Oh no. What did I do? Jumped. There we go. So for these parcels, they all have an industrial future land use. They are all currently zoned Brevard County IU. We are proposing that they receive a City of Cocoa M1, which is light industrial and warehouse city zoning. And the uses on the properties right now are industrial, manufacturing, warehousing, and some vacant land. The 20 parcels are listed up here in individual listings for each one. And now I'm going to give you a little more information regarding the two different zoning districts. So Brevard County IU zoning, the current zoning of the property, it's a zoning classification established to provide areas in which the principal use of land is for manufacturing, assembly, fabrication, and warehousing. Uses are not dependent primarily on frequent personal visits of customers or clients, but requiring a good accessibility to air, rail, street, and transportation routes. The City of Cocoa M1 zoning, in comparison, this is a provision, this is a district intended to apply to an area of land located in close proximity to transportation facilities which can serve the industrial and related functions of the city and the region. And restrictions are intended to minimize adverse influences of the industrial activity on nearby non-industrial areas and eliminate unnecessary industrial traffic through non-industrial areas. So those are the intents of both of the two zoning districts. This table gives you the current IU zoning uses allowed on the left, and on the right, the M1 zoning that we're proposing. So under the city, the uses allowed are light manufacturing, processing, assembly, television receivers, electronic communication, and transmission facilities. Both of these uses allow less intense uses under other zoning districts. So under the county, they refer back to BU1 and BU2, but they accept out single-family residences. And under the city, their uses are ones that are allowed under 4 of the city's zoning districts. And pretty much they are very similar. They both allow office, retail, auto sales, repair, personal services, business services, laundromats, dry cleaning, welding shops, the restaurants, churches are pretty much allowed on both sides. The cities also allows contractor storage yards, building material storage, freight handling, and convenience stores. And then the county has they call them conditional uses. The city refers to them as special exceptions. And again, similar things. Under the county, the commercial entertainment is not addressed under the city zoning, but composting and mulching would be. The truss manufacturing plant is not, but telecommunication towers are also listed under the city. So our recommendation for ordinance 14-2019 is approval of the zoning map amendment, consists with city code to change the zoning map designation of these 20 parcels, roughly totaling 118.66 acres from Brevard County IU Light Industrial to City of Cocoa M1 Industrial and Warehousing District.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, I don't see any lights on, but this is a public hearing, so at this time I'm gonna close it to the council and open up to the public for any public comments, if there be any. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, ordinance number 14-2019, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of 20 parcels of real property totaling 118.66 acres more or less and generally located on the west side of Cox Road, south of Pinecone Place, and north of State Road 520 in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A, attached to from Brevard County IU Light Industrial to City of Cocoa M1 Light Industrial and Warehouse District, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolution, severability, and effective date. This is first reading of this ordinance. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're open for any public comments, if we have any. Seeing none, we're gonna close it to the public at this time and reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council? We got a motion from Councilman Bover.
Second.
Second from Councilman Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, item number 2.
Okay. This is ordinance 15-2019. This is for 4 parcels, also on the west side of Cox Road, moving south from the previous batch. And as was true in the previous ordinance, there's an industrial future land use. Current zoning is Brevard County IU. Proposed zoning is City of Cocoa M1. Uses on the land, it's industrial auto, former auto auction, and vacant parcel. Those 4 parcels are here. Auto auction, vacant land, and auto body. And so for ordinance 15-2019, recommending approval of the zoning map amendment for these 4 parcels, approximately 19.73 acres from Brevard County IU to City of Cocoa M1.
Thank you, ma'am.
And the title is ordinance number 15-2019, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of 4 parcels of real property totaling 19.73 acres more or less and generally located on the west side of Cox Road, south of Wright Street, and north of State Road 520 in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A, attached here too, from Brevard County IU Light Industrial to City of Cocoa M1 Light Industrial and Warehouse District, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we can go ahead and close it to the council and open it up to the public for any public comments. Seeing none, we're gonna close it at this time to the public, to reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Deputy Mayor Warner. Second from Councilman Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 3.
This is ordinance 16-2019. This is for 6 parcels, also on the west side of Cox Road. Again, there's a present industrial future land use on the property, Brevard County IU zoning. We're proposing City of Cocoa M1 zoning. Existing uses are industrial, manufacturing, auto sales, and vacant land. These are the 6 parcels involved. And we are recommending approval of the zoning map amendment for these 6 parcels totaling 16.67 acres from Brevard County's IU to City of Cocoa M1.
And the title is ordinance number 16-2019, An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of 6 parcels of real property totaling 16.67 acres, more or less, and generally located on the west side of Cox Road, south of Wright Street, and north of State Road 520 in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A attached here 2 from Brevard County IU Light Industrial to City of Cocoa M1 Light Industrial and Warehouse District, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're going to close it to the council and open up to the public for any public comments.
I'd like to make a comment. These motions that are
Could you-
being put out for approval and whatnot.
Could you come to the, could you
Need to
come up
come
to
to
the
the
mic? Need for you to come up to the mic now, if you don't mind. And just state your name and address.
My name is Anita Gibson. I live at 451 Stone Street, Cocoa, Florida, 32922. My comment is all of these ordinance and the recommendations that out for approval, yays or nays, as a common law, a lay person, I don't truly understand these ordinance, how they affect us. Do they affect us as far as the zoning here and the zoning there? So as we, the public, I don't understand really what this is, the zoning and the changing and all this. I don't really understand what it's all about.
Okay.
And how does it affect us as the public? Or is this something only for the board to understand and to vote on?
No, I'll give you the basic, and then I'll turn it over to the city manager to give you a little bit more.
Okay.
But it's just basically some properties that were annexed into the city of Cocoa, and they were currently under county's zoning. And so they were IU, and now they're basically, we're putting our zoning now, which is M1, which is consistent with what the county has, but probably a little bit more. And then, but the city manager can go ahead and give you a little bit more reference to that.
These properties were annexed back in 2004, and after the annexation, the city applied, there's 2 things. There's future land use, which I sometimes refer to as like the constitution on the land, and you can have multiple zoning districts, and we're applying the zoning districts that's most applicable and consistent with what's on the property and what was in terms of the county zoning. So it just, there was a point in time where a planning zoning board, they wanted to see what the development was before they would approve the zoning. So now we're trying to go back because we've got a number of areas that we annexed that many of them have zoning, and they are subject to our city's land development regulations. It's just the zoning establishes what the uses are, and then what we call bulk district regulations in terms of how high you can go, how many square feet, how much, pervious surface, so they establish all those regulations, and now we're establishing that. And to the north of these properties, with what's in the city, this zoning is consistent with that.
Okay, so basically, to be honest, I really didn't get all of it, but she's laying out all the ordinance and however she does it, and then you guys just vote among yourselves on yay or nay?
Yeah, and these are all out off of Cox Road.
This is all that industrial
Yeah.
property out there on Cox Road, and basically what we're doing is just making it consistent with what already belongs to us out there. We're taking it from the county's zoning into our system. We're just changing it from the county rules to our rules, is basically it, is what we're doing. Just making it ours as opposed to theirs, so.
And theirs is who?
Well, the counties, it's all been county out there off of Cox Road, and so now it's City of Cocoa, and we're just making it consistent with the rest of our property out that way, so that it's all the same.
Okay.
And was heard, all these were heard before the Planning and Zoning Board, and many of the property owners either called in advance, and our staff spoke with the individual property owners, or some of those property owners showed up at the Planning and Zoning Board, and they understand what's happening.
Ms. Anita?
It's not being done, and there's 2 hearings. This is just the first one.
Yeah, we'll be doing this again, but Ms. Anita, there's never anything that we don't do that we don't want you to understand.
Well, that's why I came up, because I didn't.
If you don't,
And I wanted to
ask.
say, thank you for asking
Yeah, I
that
appreciate
question,
that, for
because
real.
I probably sat there in the audience for 2 years before I figured it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
please.
appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, at this time, we're gonna close it to the public and reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council? We got a motion from Councilman Bover,
Second.
second from Councilman Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 4.
This is ordinance 18-2019. This is affecting 2 parcels. These are on the north side of 520, between Cox Road and Townsend. These have a commercial future land use. They also have Brevard County IU light industrial zoning. We are recommending City of Cocoa general commercial zoning. The uses on the properties are, one is a motel, and then the other one is a donut shop that's the recent Dunkin' Donuts that was built not too long ago. So those are the parcels. And just some general information for you. Provisions in CG. This district is intended to apply to an area that's intended to be developed and preserved as a major commercial center area, serving commercial needs of the community in the region. Uses and restrictions are intended to promote protection from conflicts with adjacent residential or other non-commercial uses and minimize the interruption of traffic along adjacent thoroughfares. That's the intent of the CG zoning district. And again, we looked at the current IU zoning, which is, as we say, light industrial. However, it allows general office retail type of uses. The city CG zoning is designed for retail, wholesale dry cleaning, business services, recreation, car washes, hotels, liquor stores, convenience stores, and some additional uses that fall under some other medical clinics, restaurants. So we're recommending approval of the zoning map amendment for these 2 parcels from Brevard County's IU industrial, light industrial, to City of Cocoa's CG, which is general commercial.
And this is ordinance 18-2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of 2 parcels of real property totaling 2.06 acres more or less, and generally located on the north side of State Road 520, east of Townsend Road, and west of Cox Road in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A attached here too, from Brevard County IU Light Industrial to City of Cocoa CG General Commercial District, providing for the repeal of prior and consistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. And this is first reading. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're gonna close it to the council and open it up to the public for any public comments. Seeing none, we're closing to the public, reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Deputy Mayor Warner,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 5.
This is ordinance 19-2019. There is 1 parcel, number 35 on our map. It has a commercial future land use. It has Brevard County BU2 zoning. We are proposing City of Cocoa CG general zoning. This is a convenience store at the corner of 520 in Townsend. And we are recommending approval of the zoning map amendment for this parcel to change from Brevard County BU2 to City of Cocoa CG zoning.
Okay, this is ordinance 19-2019, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of 1 parcel of real property totaling 1.24 acres more or less and generally located on the north side of State Road 520, east of Townsend Road and west of Cox Road in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A, attached here too, from Brevard County BU2 retail, warehousing, and wholesale commercial to City of Cocoa CG General Commercial District, providing for the repeal of prior and consistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're gonna close it to the council and open it up to the public for public comments. Seeing none, we're gonna close it to the public, reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council? We got a motion from Councilman Bover,
Second.
second from Deputy Mayor Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 6.
This is ordinance 20-2019, also a single parcel. This is a commercial future land use, Brevard County PIP, which is Planned Industrial Park. We are recommending City of Cocoa CG, general commercial. This property has a billboard, that's a billboard site. It's the only thing on the parcel. So for ordinance 20-219, we are recommending approval of the zoning map amendment for this parcel from Brevard County PIP to City of Cocoa CG.
Ordinance 20-2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of one parcel of real property totaling .75 acres, more or less, and generally located on the south side of Townsend Road and immediately east of I-95 in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A attached here 2, from Brevard County PIP Planned Industrial Park to City of Cocoa CG General Commercial District, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're going to close it to the council and open it up to the public for any public comments. Seeing none, we'll close it to the public and reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We get a motion from Deputy Mayor Warner.
Second.
Second from Councilman Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, item number 7.
This is ordinance 21-2019. This is a parcel that is in the center of the previous parcel. It is commercial future land use, the same Brevard County PIP zoning. We're recommending City of Cocoa CG. That is incorrect. Anthony, isn't that supposed to be institutional? Doesn't the ordinance title say
it's
institutional? Yes,
institutional. Yep, one little
my
typo on your
bad,
slide.
sorry. We are recommending City of Cocoa institutional zoning district. It is a sewer lift station that is owned by the city. So therefore, we're recommending approval of the zoning map amendment for this parcel to be changed from Brevard County PIP to City of Cocoa institutional.
Okay, and this is ordinance 21-2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of one parcel of real property totaling .03 acres, more or less, and generally located on the south side of Townsend Road and immediately east of I-95 in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A attached here 2, from Brevard County PIP Planned Industrial Park to City of Cocoa Institutional District, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're going to close it to the council and open it up to the public for any public comments. Seeing none, we're going to close it to the public and reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We get a motion from Deputy Mayor Warner, second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously.
And the last of this batch, and I thank you for your patience, is ordinance 22-2019, also one parcel. It's on the south side of Townsend Road, directly behind Sam's Club. It is an industrial future land use. It has Brevard County IU zoning. We're recommending City of Cocoa M2, which is manufacturing and industrial zoning. The existing use on the property is light manufacturing. We're recommending approval of zoning map amendment for this parcel to be changed from Brevard County's IU zoning to City of Cocoa M2 zoning.
Okay, and this is the last of the ordinances. I'd like to I know there's going to be another reading, but commend staff, Kristen, the Assistant City Attorney, for all their work regarding this. There's a lot of work that goes into these comprehensive planning zoning studies, and also the Planning and Zoning Board for their patience and recommendation on all of these ordinances. Ordinance number 22-2019, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cocoa, Brevard County, Florida, changing the zoning map designation of one parcel of real property totaling 1.08 acres, more or less, and generally located on the south side of Townsend Road and east of I-95 in Cocoa, Florida, more particularly depicted and legally described on Exhibit A attached here too, from Brevard County IU Light Industrial to City of Cocoa M2 Manufacturing and Industrial District, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And at this time, we're going to close it to the council and open it up to the public for any public comments. Seeing none, we'll close it to the public and reopen it to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Councilman Goins,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Real quick, Mr. City Manager, before we move on, there was a question that was brought up. And it's just, you see the CG there? They were wondering why that wasn't GC. Is there a reason for that? Just out of curiosity.
General commercial
Yeah,
would be G.
versus CG.
Because we have like CN, commercial neighborhood,
Okay.
commercial general, we also have commercial, wholesale, warehouse, rather. And these zoning district designations go back to, I think the last time, if I go back, I want to say 59 zoning codes.
Okay. That just came up, it was,
Probably because it's commercial, they identified what
Yeah.
type of commercial, neighborhood,
yeah,
general, wholesale,
okay. Okay.
restricted.
And they was just looking at the CG versus the GC. Why it wasn't there. And that question just came up. I was just curious as well, so.
Does the county have GC?
No, it was brought up at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, so I was just curious. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 9, and we do have one card. Community Service Director, Ms. Bont.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is asking reconsideration of a previously approved but unexecuted bonding development agreement between the City of Cocoa and Integra Land Company to allow the developer to construct up to 249 apartments, the totaling 150.35 acres located on the south side of State Road 524 between Westminster and London Boulevard. This came before you August 14, 2019. There was a little bit of miscommunication between staff and the developer, and the executed copy was not received by the city. So the attorney felt that it was null and void and needed to come back before the council. In addition, there were some changes that were requested. One is that the original development agreement had for level 3 charging stations, and there, within your package, Exhibit A, there is some comparison between the level 3 and level 2 plus stations, and the developer is requesting that we change that. Some of the electric cars are not compatible with the level 3 because of the different power that they use, and also they have found that the level 3 is actually 10 times the cost of a level 2. So after the council approval, the developer met with the utilities department, and their plan was to connect to a lift station. Unfortunately, that lift station has not been constructed yet. That's the one that also the London Cove project is planning to connect to. So additional language was added into the development agreement in order to construct that lift station. Additionally, there was some conversation in regards to the conservation easement, and so request of understanding the preservation, the developer has worked with St. John's, and the city has also looked at some of the requirements that we would like to provide: boardwalk trails, benches, some educational signage, wayfinding signs, and things like that. So they're working with St. John's at this time. There is one thing that I want to clarify on page 7. It appears that the way that it's worded is that the developer would pay for any mitigation that upon the city's activities after the development. And so, in speaking with the city attorney, we're going to just make that modification to the development agreement to clarify that any of the activities that the city does within within the conservation, once it's deeded to us, would actually be at the cost of the city, not of the developer. And then the final change is that the original agreement had for 120 days because it was approved in August. And so that time frame has been reduced to 60 days. The developer's also here if you have any other questions.
Okay. And we have a card, I guess, from David McDaniel. Yes, sir.
I'm David McDaniel, 1525 International Parkway in Lake Mary, Florida. Appreciate you guys listening to this again, and I apologize for the miscommunication about the old developers agreement. I know the city signed it, we signed it, and we didn't want it recorded because we want to record it after the closing, and so we held it, and I didn't realize that it had to go back to the city within like 30 days. So I guess technically it went null and void, so apologize for that. And then the only comment I had was, and Nancy did address it with the language in the, on page 7. So if we can get that addressed, then we're in good shape.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is a public hearing, so at this time, I'm gonna close it to the council and open it up to the public for any public comments. Seeing none, I'll close it to the public at this time and reopen it to the council. We got a motion from Councilman Bover.
Just one, I wanted a clarification. So we still have rights to the conservation area. All of that's taken care of, right?
Correct.
So-
The property is about 150 acres, and the conservation area will be about 130,
Okay,
plus or minus.
okay, so that has been approved by St. John's, that it's in our possession, that we can create.
Not until the developer purchases the property, then they would deed it to us. They have a certain time frame. So, and if I could just ask, the motion would be to also make that change within page 7
Okay.
of the easement.
Is that your motion with that change on page 7? Okay. We got a motion from Councilman Bover.
Second.
Second from Deputy Mayor Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. We're gonna move on to council business, item number 1. Finance Director.
Yes. Mayor and City Council, this item is requesting direction from the City Council to amend the purchasing policy, section 15.2 for large purchases in reference to local vendor preference, section 15 of the Financial Operations Manual. At the September 11th meeting, it was requested that the local vendor preference get changed from 3 to 5%. That would require an ordinance change. So staff requested time to work on that item and did some research regarding that. In doing the research, in reviewing the current policy, there's advantages and disadvantages to local preference. Some people feel that it discourages competition. Some people feel that it encourages competition. And of note, most recently, Brevard County rescinded their local preference ordinance in 2018. However, through doing research, there are a lot of agencies that have the local preference clause in their purchasing policy. Staff went through and tried to determine if it actually made a difference in bid awards over the last several years, and did not find an instance where local preference would have swayed the decision on the bid award. There's different variations. Currently, the policy says it has a lot of exceptions. We do allow local preference, but there's a whole list of exceptions that are attached to this agenda item. Some of those are, if it's a federal grant, it can't be for contracts that are over $1 million. And there's quite an extensive list of the exceptions. So staff went through pros and cons of both, which is included in the cover memo on this agenda item. And staff is presenting 2 options, one, to eliminate the policy, or 2, to leave it as it is in the next 6 months and see if it has any impact on decisions that are made. And so staff is requesting direction from City Council as to what they want to have done with this section of the purchasing policy.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Cox.
Yeah, I wanted to, I had asked, this was actually postponed, it was supposed to be on the last agenda, but I wasn't here, and I wanted the opportunity to speak for it because I felt like this serves, during my first year in office here, watching where the dollars go and wondering how we can build our economy without keeping some of the dollars here, and I felt like this speaks to that purpose. I wanted to thank you for bringing it forward. I looked over the staff's concerns, also looking at Brevard County rescinding their local preference because they felt they no longer needed it to attract local contractors because their economy is doing so well and unemployment is so low. Well, guess what? Our unemployment is twice the level of Brevard County. Our poverty level is twice the level of Brevard County overall. I think we need some signals that say we want business to move here. We appreciate business being in Cocoa, and we don't want to send all of our dollars outside of Cocoa. It appears that the 3% hasn't made any difference in terms of the competition. I don't see how increasing that, sending this market signal to 5%, would hurt us in any way. And if we started to see that we were actually suffering as a result, businesses moving here, so many businesses moving here, and the competition becoming less, then we could always change it. We could look at that again, or maybe we even need to report back on the results of it. But I just can't see, based on the arguments that were presented, why we wouldn't go to 5%, why we wouldn't try to send a market signal. We need to work around some of these other things where it's actually prohibited. That's fine. But I'm just looking for any and every way that we can set market signals to tell business, we want you to come to Cocoa, and we appreciate you being here. So I would like to make a motion that we move it from 3% to 5%, and that we report back annually on the results of that. And I'd like a second, if for no other reason than to discuss it.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Cost, a second from Councilman Goins with discussions. Deputy Mayor Warner.
I just have a question of Rebecca. It's been a while since I've actually read the entire policy, but does it apply just to Cocoa businesses, or does local include everything in Brevard County?
The policy has a clause in there that it needs to have an address in the city of Cocoa,
Okay.
so that the business it's establishing is actually located.
Okay.
And there are other options that you can include. Certain percentage of the employees have to be residing in Cocoa also.
So like for the businesses that are surrounding us, some of our bigger commercial and up in the industrial area, like up in Sigco and stuff, who, have a lot of Cocoa employees, they would not necessarily fall into this category. Like our paving contractors, which we use a lot of, they're not located in the city of Cocoa, but so many of their employees actually work in the city of Cocoa. So they would not benefit from this?
I think just one clarification, I think the policy actually says physical boundaries in Brevard County.
I thought it said Brevard County too,
Sorry.
that's why I'm
Because that
asking.
was a big issue to Brevard
Yeah.
County when
That's what I
this was
thought,
being
yeah.
adopted years ago.
Yeah, Brevard, and I think the other one was Seminole County. And I thought Orange, but I know Seminole County certainly raised some issues with it.
So this would affect businesses that surround our city, not just inside our city. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In Brevard County.
Okay,
Is that,
thank you.
this right here was something that we discussed
What,
back in what?
10%
in
instead of
about-
15?
No, this was back in September we discussed.
No, I'm saying we had discussed this
Yeah, it's like-
before back in 2010 or something like
What
that.
you
where
doing?
we-
I
Even
didn't
before, yeah, like
understand.
twice. We had to come back and
Yeah.
change it because of the
Yeah.
concerns related to
Yeah.
other counties that said they were gonna
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if
respond in
anyone
kind.
wants to argue with this, I'm
No,
not, I
no,
mean,
we're-
really,
nobody's
nobody
arguing.
have.
Arguing.
It's
No,
just-
I'm not
Asking.
saying that. If other counties are making that argument, I mean, we have a significant poverty level here. We have we spend a significant amount of money, but I'm finding that all of it goes outside of Cocoa.
What, you mean?
I don't think there's gonna be a big result
Right.
if we were to change it from 3 to 5%. But I think it sends a market signal. I think it says, we really appreciate you if you come to Cocoa. if you want to live here, if your employees want to live here.
I know you're saying Cocoa, but it covers the county, so.
Okay,
I'm just saying, I mean, I
so
just wanted to.
this ordinance, so we can't write it just for cocoa, to give cocoa businesses that advantage.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
but is there a way to make
nothing
this
for
ordinance?
But it just covers
Yeah.
encompass
The
county.
current ordinance covers Brevard County, but
Right.
yes, if you wanted to narrowly restrict it to cocoa, but I just will share with you, we do have some companies, I can think like Bile Brothers, Mid-Floor Steel, some of those that operate that operate outside of cocoa, and what was expressed to us, and I wasn't city manager, but I just remember sitting in the meetings, was they came and said, listen, this is going to hurt us as a local company because this county over here is saying I can't even bid because your location, both the county and the city, I think the county also had a higher rate too, but they would be prohibited from bidding because they're giving preferential treatment, and therefore they didn't do that there, so they were going to just exclude them from their bid.
Did they show you that in writing? No.
Well, I wasn't the manager then, but I remember it was Anthony, don't you remember? Seminole County was one of the big ones that came out and said something.
So they said if your business was within your county that you reside in, they said you're prohibited to bid within our county. No, they didn't say that.
No, the issue, if I
know they didn't say
recall,
that.
and it was quite a while ago, the City Council of Cocoa originally adopted a cocoa business preference for local ordinance. And Brevard County, and I can't remember the exact reason, but politically was opposed to the City of Cocoa establishing a City of Cocoa preference. They felt it unfairly treated all of Brevard County businesses. So it became a political issue, not a legal issue. And the City Council reversed course somewhat and then adopted a local preference to require the physical address be in Brevard County, and then you would be eligible for the local preference, provided it didn't fall within one of the exclusions where we're preempted by law to use local preference. So, it's council's choice of whether you want to leave it as is, Brevard County, or limit it to cocoa, but I would just remind the council that was a big issue for Brevard County some years ago, and maybe another issue again that you would end up having to wrestle with.
And we got to remember that even though some businesses don't live or not within the city of Cocoa's boundaries, they do employ a lot of Cocoa residents. And
Do they?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's a few of them. Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
finding as I ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hard pressed to find the people that
Yeah.
are in cocoa.
Yeah, there's a lot of businesses within the county that hires a lot of, that's not in the city of Cocoa, that actually hires Cocoa employees. And,
Especially a lot of our blue-collar businesses, like the city manager said, Bile Brothers, Watson Paving, Goodson Paving, all of those people. We have a lot of Cocoa residents that work at those places, a lot of our contractors, builders, so. I have no issue with raising it to 5%. I just wanted to point out that it would not just apply to cocoa businesses, because I seem to remember that political fight that went on several years ago. As a matter of fact, I think the mayor might have been on the council when that happened. Wasn't that in the early 2000s? Might have been, yeah.
Well, I'm losing
Yeah.
track of time.
I know.
Well, I mean, I think I'm going to continue to argue this because
why we
because we have twice the unemployment, we have twice the poverty level of the rest of the county.
But our
Why shouldn't we
businesses don't
why shouldn't we
necessarily
show our self-preference?
But our businesses don't necessarily employ people who live in the city of Cocoa. So if we want to really benefit our residents, the people who live here, and not just the business owners, then we need to include the surrounding areas and the people who actually employ our residents.
and then just another argument is we might not have the location for the particular business, you know, that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
what
I
I'm
know,
saying?
but,
I'm
and
just-
then they
it's just
won't
some things to
apply,
look
and then
at.
they won't,
Yeah.
you know, the thing is, first of all, we haven't had a case where the 3% really did anything
right.
anyway. Again, I want to figure out, if we're not going to do it here, how do we send market signals that say we appreciate businesses functioning, employing Cocoa residents, and living here with us to make it a great place? And I'm not sure if we don't do things like this, I'm not sure how we do that. So-
I know, like the hub zone in the state of Florida, where you have to have certain percentage of employees that live within a certain block or in maybe a low income area. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that. Maybe that's something we making. Maybe I know what you're saying. You're trying to make sure that the citizens of Cocoa that live within the city limits and those companies in those city limits benefit from bidding
Yeah,
on our
or
contract.
At least we could attract a business
Right.
with that opportunity
But then that can negatively affect us too as well.
down the
Right.
road,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we can rescind it.
Well, my whole purpose, when I brought this up, and I talked to John about this as well, is we have companies coming in from out of the county, maybe from Fort Myers or wherever they're coming from, beating out contractors in Cocoa. In some cases, you know, by $40,000, $50,000, which doesn't really make sense when you have, say, for example, 3 Cocoa businesses bidding on one project, and they get beat out by somebody that's a company that's 4 or 5 hours away. So that was a way to possibly, you know, give those Brevard County and or Cocoa companies the opportunity to win those jobs by having a local preference. That was my purpose of doing it.
Well, like I said, I have no problem raising it to 5%. That's, you know, it's not gonna make
Right.
it's
But
not
keep
gonna make a
it
huge
Brevard
difference
County.
to us
Keep it Brevard,
in
yeah.
what we do, but it needs to stay in Brevard County. Like I said, we have a lot of residents in our city that work in businesses that are outside of our city limits, and I mean, Goodson Paving. I mean, how many people do Goodson Paving, and how many times do they end up winning an award from us? We do a lot of paving work. We have several local paving companies. We have people who work at those paving companies, but they're not physically located in our city. They're north of our city.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to eliminate those people who I know employ a lot of Cocoa residents from being able to win one of these bids, because if it's not them, then it's somebody from outside our area. So
I just wonder what we could do to, I mean, if they do employ a lot of Cocoa residents, would they consider living in Cocoa, having their business in Cocoa?
there's no place for them to have their business in Cocoa. We
mean,
can
it's just-
annex them.
Well,
maybe if we
it
can get
depends
them.
on what business.
Yeah, it depends on the business,
Yeah, it depends on the
obviously.
business.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just for direction, I think we hear you, but just want to, it's with those 2 caveats on item E and item G as it relates to anything that would, you know, that would conflict with other laws related to minority women business enterprises, veterans preference, federal Davis-Bacon, and then as well, one of the things obviously we learned, you know, we've learned over the years with working to try to get with grant funding and or reimbursements like FEMA, those we need to exclude those because like with FEMA, you know, a contractor on a tribe in South Dakota has every right to bid because there are federal dollars involved.
yeah, you're talking about eliminate E and G.
E and G, yes, sir.
Okay, we had a motion and a second, but
Would she have to amend her motion with that in it?
yeah,
Rebecca, was there other was F1 because I know we participate in a number of regional statewide
Yes.
co-ops.
Yes, we participate in co-ops.
Like for instance, all of our as you noticed when we purchased
Oh,
our
the
vehicles
piggyback.
today, we used the Florida Sheriff's Association contract, and we use other you know, like the NGPA contract where there's a co-op, and they go out and they bid. I mean, now those are different items, but the point being is there are co-ops out there that we would be excluded from.
and as a matter of fact, in our consent agenda today, we had a few that
Yeah,
we picked
six,
back up,
six,
yeah.
it wasn't highlighted, but 6 hybrid
Yeah.
2020 Explorers for the police department,
So that would be F as well.
E, F, and G.
E, F, and G.
That way we have no issues with the, I understand where council wants to go, we just want to make sure those are protected.
Okay.
So we're
Okay.
not-
Okay, so I would amend my motion
To exclude those three
to
items.
exclude those 3 items. And so you're saying that the ordinance would be for Brevard County.
Yes,
So
that's
to
what
make
it
the
is.
ordinance for Brevard County, I'm not sure that really serves the purpose that I want.
What I would add is the EDC promotes the Space Coast as a region, and I certainly wouldn't want to get into a situation where we were, those are county dollars that are funding the EDC, and to where if they were to, and I'm not sure that they would, but I don't, if they get funded through the county commission, and depending on do they then subsequently say, well, if you're gonna do that, since they raised concerns before, then we're not gonna, I don't know if that's the case. But I wouldn't want to, they've had campaigns to promote Brevard County, the EDC has. We've had campaigns to promote cocoa businesses. We have them, if you go to our choosecocoa.org site, you can see all the available properties, all our programs. I'm going to announce the AEDU and who the speaker is. I think that's going to, but we do things to do business recruitment and attraction, and many times that requires us to work where the EDC will get the contact, because the traditional way when we were advertising in Florida Trend, and then people, hey, I see your ad, then they would, then Florida Trend, they get a response, then they would send us the card. But we don't have that. We rely on working with the EDC for the most part, so I
Thank you,
think
sir.
my recommendation that you stick with Brevard County, but you're still
Yeah.
providing that benefit.
If I could.
Should it be rewritten and brought back to the next meeting?
Hold on 1 second. Let me let
Is that-
Deputy Mayor Warner.
Yeah, I just had a question, since it was Councilman Goins who brought this forward in his discussion on that September 11th meeting, was just to change our current ordinance from 3 to 5%, just a simple change it from 3 to 5%. Is that still your intent, Councilman Goins?
Yeah, but I would take consideration of city manager's recommendations on removing those 3.
Those 3 items, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And I'll amend my motion to remove those 3.
Okay. There's a couple of lights on here still.
sorry about that.
Still. Okay, we got a motion from Councilwoman Cox, and that to go with the 5%, but for the county, but eliminating item E, F, and G from the list of that we have here when it comes to disadvantages.
And to include an annual report on the results of that.
Good point. Good point. Okay.
And we may have some, Anthony, we'll go through the ordinance. Some of these exclusions may be there, but we
They
just
are.
want to
Some
make
of them
sure.
are.
They are.
Yeah.
So I was confused on
Yeah.
why you raised
Right.
E, F, and G, but we can go back and make sure that those are written into the
I
exclusions.
just remember during Hurricane Irma, we had an issue
Well,
that we
hurricane.
had to go back, and so I want to make sure that we're covered, so we don't find ourselves in that situation again.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing in terms of bringing back a revised policy
Just 5%.
is 5% and an annual report.
Yeah.
I think maybe one other issue you may want to bring up, John, because our current policy, the way it's written, if a business in Brevard County comes within 3%, then they get awarded the contract at the price that they actually submitted. I've seen some other policies which, from a competitive pricing standpoint, you might want to consider. is that if the local business comes within the threshold that you set, say 5%, the local business gets an opportunity to match the lowest bid that's submitted.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Versus
Yeah,
the city taking the second.
cut, basically. I got you.
Right,
I got you.
taking a higher bid,
Right.
you
Right.
give the local business the opportunity to match
Maybe give
the
them
lowest.
X amount of days to
Right.
consider.
Right, it's a
whatever
short
that-
window, some of the policies that I've seen, you may want to consider that adjustment,
Okay.
I just wanted to raise it.
And that's a good point.
So should we bring it back and have it rewritten, or?
Well, we would rewrite the policy and bring it back to you all, but I just wanted to mention that other
That's a
issue.
good point.
Would that be with
Well, I
the
would like
5%
to-
or 3%?
It'll be at 5.
Right now, the
Either.
proposed changes are 5%, an annual report. We'll
That's a
make
good
sure that the exclusions that the city manager entered are clearly in there,
There are,
and I believe they are.
for the CFR.
And then I
needs to
just
be updated.
dropped another issue on you that you may want to consider based on my read of some other local preference policy.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to see that.
Okay, is that your motion?
So I'll amend my motion, although, do we need a motion here, or is it a consensus?
I think consensus for direction, we'll bring the ordinance back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Did it?
Because the
Okay.
ordinance would require
That's
two
good,
hearings, so you would
we won't
be
have to
able to
spend
see
no
the
money.
ordinance as presented, and then if it still isn't the way that you want it, we can adjust that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Yep, welcome.
Okay, we gonna move on to item number 2 under council business, annual appointment of deputy mayor. And, any nominations?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
nominate Alex Coyne as the next deputy mayor.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we got a second from, Deputy Mayor
Oh,
Warner? Well, this
Well,
is
just point of
well,
order,
this is
this
just
is a
nomination right
nomination.
now, so
So,
we got, Councilman Goins. And, any other nominations?
and Councilman Goins accepts the nomination.
Okay, we have, there's no other nominations, so we'll go ahead and make a motion now on that, nomination.
We just vote.
Motion to approve Alex Coyne as the next deputy mayor.
We got a motion from, Councilman Bover,
Second.
second from Deputy Mayor Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Deputy Mayor Goins.
Thank you.
That's fast.
They doing it official.
Wow.
It's official, yeah.
We have to finish the meeting.
No, it changes right now.
I got
That's fine.
Councilwoman, give him the one that says councilwoman.
Hey, you said I gotta wash your truck. It's once a month.
Put councilwoman over there.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 3, which is, consider the reappointment of Mr. Russell Single to our regular member of our planning and zoning board through, November 2022.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from,
Second.
Councilwoman, Warner, second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. I don't think Russ is here, so.
No, he's not.
And it says, item number 4, consider of a resolution supporting efforts encouraging the state legislators to repeal the preemption of local laws regarding regulation and recycles, and Mr. City Manager.
I'll just finish it. And the polystyrene materials, as well as preemptions and regulations regarding the use of sale of single-use plastic bags. The city of Cocoa did receive a request for, to consider a resolution supporting these efforts. Clearly, I mean, this is not, I guess I put it in here, while the issue is not whether or not the city of Cocoa at this point in time wants to regulate these materials. It's more a fundamental issue that the citizens of Cocoa currently can't even have that discussion because it's preempted by the legislature. So if the citizens of Cocoa wanted to come forward and petition this council to regulate these materials, and that they were desirous, and they submitted a petition with 50% of the voters, you couldn't have that discussion because it's preempted to the state. So essentially, this is a home rule issue. And absent the repeal of those existing pre-exemption by the state, the city would not be able to engage in the conversation other than to say, we'll take it to Tallahassee and talk to them. So obviously, there's a number of communities around the state that have agreed to or have adopted the resolution. Again, I'm all about home rule. I mean, we live local. You all, every day, when you are out there in the community, you interact with the residents and the business owners, and you're closest to the, those that would be impacted, and you should be able to respond to the needs and the desires of the community without being handcuffed by the legislature in the form of a preemption. So on that basis alone, I mean, if the community wanted to have this conversation, it should be able to have the conversation. And so what this resolution does is essentially supports the efforts to, request in the state legislature to repeal those preemptions.
Didn't Cocoa Beach and Satellite Beach approve the straws?
Elimination of single-use plastics, or at least straws.
The straws, because you can't do single-use plastics or polystyrene because the governor vetoed that bill.
Yeah,
And
right.
to me, this is very much in line with what
I got you.
there. Now, not saying that the plastics industry and the styrofoam industry is not going to come out and say this is an overarching state issue, but again, it's
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Councilwoman Cost.
Second.
Second from Deputy Mayor Goins. No, he had
He
said
is.
it before.
He got in there.
All in
before I
favor
did.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Appointment of Space Coast League of Cities voting delegates and alternates.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Yeah. I am currently the voting delegate, so I'd like to continue doing that. I don't know who wants to be an alternate or.
I have been attending the meetings, in fact, attended most of them, and have become more involved with League of Cities. I'd like to be the alternate.
Yeah, this is normally for the August meeting where there's actually a section of voting, and normally needs to be somebody who's serving on a committee. And since both of you are on committees, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
We need a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and I'll make a motion that Mary Williams be the voting delegate and Councilwoman Cost be the alternate for 2020 for the Space Coast League of Cities.
Second.
Okay, we got a first from, a motion from Councilwoman Warner, a second from Councilman Bover. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we can move on to city business. Wow. Mr. City Manager.
I'll be happy to do it, yeah.
Okay.
This is the pre-annexation development agreement?
Yes, sir.
This item is a pre-annexation development agreement and acceptance of 3 annexation petitions from a property owner. If you recall, the city council adopted an annexation study for a particular area out along 524 and State Road 520. This, after the study went out, this is the pre-annexation development agreement is with 3 of the major property owners that constitute a majority of the land in the annexation study area and a majority of the parcels in the annexation study area. And this lays out the developer's proposed development for the property. And consistent with the pre-annexation agreement, the developer is submitting the petitions to annex the applicable parcels of land that are at issue. Once the city council considers this annexation agreement and petitions, assuming the council approves the annexation agreement and accepts the petition. The next step will be to prepare the annexation ordinance, and that annexation ordinance would be scheduled for first reading for the council at your December meeting, I believe.
When we noticed the county, since we didn't have the meeting dates, so we probably need to give them a courtesy notice at the hearings that we're moving forward with the annexation. So,
Probably in December.
yeah, since there's
Yeah, I mean,
the
at
second
this
meeting
point,
in September, yes,
We would have
more
to
than,
prepare the notices to all of the other property owners and all the property owners involved. A notice would go to the county, and an ad would be placed in the newspaper, and then the council would consider the annexation ordinance for first reading.
Thank you, sir. Is that it?
That's it.
I got a card here from Kim Rizalka. Did you want to come up and speak, or?
She's the attorney.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the pre-annexation development agreement and accept the petitions.
Okay, we got a motion from Councilwoman Warner. Second from Councilman Bover. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, ma'am. Item number 2, consider the first reading of ordinance number 23-2019. Mr. City Attorney.
This item was discussed at your workshop a couple of weeks ago. The consensus of the city council at that meeting was to bring back this ordinance. As we discussed at the workshop, this ordinance would establish a civil citation program for possession of cannabis, marijuana in amounts under 20 grams, and possession of drug paraphernalia. This ordinance is based and modeled on the City of Palm Bay's ordinance, which has been received by the city as an example, with some slight modifications to it. I'd be happy to answer any particular questions you may have. And you note also in the agenda item, we tried to summarize kind of the state of the law and the issue, which is a little bit in flux, as we discussed at the workshop, relative to testing distinctions between cannabis, marijuana versus hemp, and all the issues pertaining to that. So again, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Any wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion
Second.
from Councilwoman Warner. Second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 9.4, which is number 6 under consent. And who do we have there? Julie's director, he's not, oh, here's Jack. Is that 7, right?
Number 6? No.
I'm sorry. did
Was
I-
number 3 under consent.
Agenda is 6-3.
Oh, 3 and,
3 and
6
7.
dash
3 and 7,
6
okay, I'm sorry.
dash 7.
3 and 7.
Oh, but it looks like we're doing 7 right now. There isn't. Okay, well, I mean, we can do that, and my point's really,
So it was 3 and 7, right?
yeah, it
So-
applies to 3 and 7, I guess.
So it's 9.4, which would be 3.
So one of my questions, if I can ask, or should I wait to have this presented? Right,
Yeah, we can do it.
we can go ahead with 3? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, the only reason I pulled this from the consent agenda were a couple of things. First of all, I was surprised to learn, well, overall, we spend like $3 million on electricity a year, and I wanted to put some things on the radar screen here. I attended a solar workshop last week designed for municipalities, and I was glad to see other staff there as well as a couple members of the Sustainability Committee. But we listened to presentations from other municipalities, including Orange County, and talking about some of the advantages and some of the ways that they're really able to make savings through renewable energy, through solar. And I was specifically looking at the Dial plant, which is almost about $2 million a year in electricity. And I understand, I just learned that it's actually Duke Power that serves the Dial plant, which I didn't realize, versus the other, probably most of them are FPL. And I believe that we're involved in and have been looking into, and perhaps you could just talk for a moment, or Matt could, in regard to this, is Solar Now, is it called, through FPL?
Can I say something real quick, John? Because I know that this morning on that water symposium that we're at, they talked about some funding with solar.
And that's what I was going to bring up.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So with regard to FPL program, sorry, with regard to FPL's program, it's still currently with the Public Service Commission. We did submit a letter of interest. So once that program is finalized and they get approval from the FPL or from the BSC, we would be able to opt into the program because, as you know, they're building another solar farm, and then they'll secure our rates at a set rate, to participate, and that would, in the long run, lower or at least maintain our electric rates for a defined period of time.
While at the same time using renewable energy.
Correct.
Right.
So
And I don't know
it's
if
kind of
Duke Power has anything.
like they're the
similar.
conduit. We're not doing it, but they're building the big solar farm, and we're just going to benefit from it.
Right. And of course, we're not in the energy industry. Our water utility is not in the energy industry, but it certainly does use a lot of energy. And what was presented to us in that solar workshop were that, particularly when it came to the ground-mounted solar, they actually had a 10 to 12 year payback. Solar itself, the array, has a 25 to 30 year life, meaning that over that 30 years you would have significant savings, and therefore it's an investment. What we heard this morning, we had a presentation, the Florida League of Cities program that we attended in Orlando. Trina Gohaver, the director of the Division of Water Restoration, yes, from Florida DEP, spoke about the SRF and monies being available through the SRF, which are at the 1.87% interest rate, that they were funding solar projects now. So I just wanted to put it on our radar screen in terms of, when and if we have real estate available to be able to do something like that, that it be a consideration in our cost savings, as well as doing the right thing by using renewables. We could also see significant savings.
It was a good presentation, and as well as the secretary being there. But yeah, and that was related to those solar projects for like wastewater, stormwater, and potable water.
In fact, they also talked about stormwater parks, that they would actually, through the state revolving fund, that they would also fund stormwater parks. So another consideration, and with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Cox, a second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We're gonna move on to item number 7, which is 995.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This item number 7 is to approve a resolution amending the FY 2020 budget through the use of the water sewer contingency and to approve task order 2020-11 with Boston Mayor Engineering Group for professional engineering services and surveying services related to the City of Cocoa Zone J Indian River Drive Septic to Sewer Project WS 20G2, and to authorize the city manager to approve related purchase order.
Thank you, sir.
And of course,
Go
I
ahead.
pulled this, so Are we covering, because when I read the description of, I think it's J, does that go all the way, it said to McFarland by the park, right? But we actually have incorporated area up to the other end of McFarland.
We cover our city limits under our jurisdiction.
Okay,
That-
so
that
this is
piece-
the whole thing.
This piece is for what's in the
Okay.
city of Cocoa only, not the piece that's outside the city, which
Okay.
is north of McFarland.
Okay, and the map that Matt put up, this shows us, could you describe what, these are the areas
Yes,
that are
ma'am.
not sewered yet.
Correct.
So once we take care of that strip along Indian River Drive, we will, in effect, have eliminated most of the nutrients, at least coming from septics,
At least the ones that are closest to the river.
closest to the river. But then we have these other areas, and are they mostly unincorporated?
Which areas are you speaking of, ma'am?
Where the blue dots are supposed to be, where is the key?
They're within,
The septic system, septic tanks.
yeah, they're within 55 meters of a body of water. The dark blue, and then
It's hard to see the lighter one.
the lighter is, or it's 55 yards, within 55 yards, and then the lighter blue is 55 to 219 yards, and then the,
If you remember in the original Save Our Indian River, they had like a couple of zones. That's what this map is kind of laid out in. It's kind of got the green, it's got a blue and a light dark blue, and they really aren't necessarily even funding by that. They're actually really trying to push all the money towards the primary areas that have the
Yes.
most impact.
Right.
It's not to say that if there's still money available that we can go back and get more and do things, but the area in green is the areas that's right up against the Indian River Lagoon. That's what J&K funds for this go-around.
I was just trying to get a better sense of what areas remain unsewered, because, again, this morning we had a really great presentation and discussion, as well as we were led to believe there's hope that more money's down the road for actually helping citizens go from septic to sewer.
Yeah, because there was big concerns about how we keep permitting these septic tanks. At the same time, we're trying to eliminate them and get them on our sewer system.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve, and that would be for both, what numbers were they?
Well, you did 3 already. We did
Okay.
3 already, so this is 7.
Okay, so, yeah, motion to approve 7.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Cost, a second from Councilman Bover. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on to our multi-year contract, which is 9-3. What's the wishes of the council? We got a motion from Councilman Bover,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Warner. All in
Okay,
favor?
Can we have questions? I do have a question on this one.
Okay, discussions.
Okay, and this is, this is Jacobs Engineering, and I have to throw it out there because we have no other bidders, right? This is one we're discussing,
The multi-year contract.
or is this the one we're discussing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I know, and we're been very pleased with Jacobs Engineering, and that evolved from CH2M Hill. I know it's been a long time with this particular consultant, and I know from having worked in utilities, some of these jobs are jobs that were in previous decades might have been done by employees. But I'm just wondering, what are the safeguards in place when we only have one contractor, where this is a major contract? Yeah. Is it just kind of, do we just go by industry standards, and that's how, in terms of how things are priced, what they cost from the consultant?
This is a qualifications contract by law,
Okay.
so it has nothing to do with price. It has everything to do with qualifications, and that's the
Okay.
first step in the CCNA process that we're required to do for our procurement agreements and state statute. So when we put that out, it's a request to tell us if you're qualified and how, and to show us that you can do this kind of work. Then we select and shortlist based on those qualifications, and then we make a recommendation to council. Once that's adopted by council, then usually they're delegated to the city manager, myself, and the city attorney to negotiate a contract and the price that will stand then for whatever number of years that the contract's for.
Okay.
In this particular case,
there
there were,
really is something that there aren't that many contractors out there, and I know that the industry itself of
There are,
consultants is
there are a number of consulting firms within the Orlando and Brevard County area. They chose not to compete against the incumbent. That's really what happened. So per our guidelines, it's really treated like a no competition or no bid. So we put out, I don't know, we went on Demand Star with several, a few hundred different, hits in interest. But in the end, because as you know, when you compete for it, it's expensive. And I guess the competition, weighed against the incumbent and decided that they didn't feel comfortable enough that they could win the work. So they chose not to, I can only assume, I'm making assumptions here, but that would be certainly one of the ways that they make a decision as to whether or not they want to spend the money to try to replace an incumbent.
Well, it's always hard to compete against the best.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, motion to approve.
Oh, we got a motion in a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna call the question now. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. You all have your information agenda, but we're gonna, I'm sorry, well, we're gonna go to our reports. If we may, any advisory boards or committees? None. City Administration, Public Works, any reports?
No report.
Thank you, sir.
Tony, don't run off. Don't run off, Tony.
He tried. He tried.
He's trying to sneak out before we had a chance
You
to ask
didn't get
him a
that
question.
hybrid feet started quick enough.
No reports.
Silence, okay. Chief Cantaloupe.
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to touch real quick on earlier, there was some information brought up about the sidewalks in the village and them not being cleaned. Code actually has a case on the one location in the village. So we are working with the village to try to get them. I know we've had cases before. They've cleaned them up. They've come into compliance. But we keep up with them and trying to get them to keep those areas up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Chief Lamb.
Just two things real quick, Mr. Mayor. The first one was our 9/11 stair climb was this Saturday. I apologize, I didn't attend. My son had a band competition, but Chief Byrd attended and said it was a great turnout. They had a little over 100 attendees. So I'd just like to thank firefighter Alex Candelero for him and his team and all the time and effort they put into that, especially having to change the dates after the hurricane and all, but they really have put a lot of their heart and soul into that, and it shows each and every year, and I think it's a great tribute to the organizations that they're raising money for the 9/11 firefighters and all, so I appreciate all that they do. The turkey drive is going great. We've had a little over 96 turkeys actually donated. As of this afternoon, we've had 87 families sign up for those turkey dinners, so we just appreciate all the support from both staff and our citizens in the community to help donate those turkeys. They're donating gift cards. They're bringing in money to actually impact our residents here in the city of Cocoa and those families that really need a nice hot warm meal and could use a lift up. So I think that says a lot for who we are as a community and trying to reach out and help them. So keep them coming. We'll take those turkeys all day long.
When is the cutoff date? I'm just.
December 14th.
No.
Monday,
for
the Monday
Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving.
Okay, now as far as the location, you want stuff up at Fire Station 1?
Yes, sir. Fire
Okay.
Station 1. And if you'll call me, we'll make sure that we have some people there. Mr. Sinclair dropped off 38 turkeys today in a small car. So it was a good time trying to get all those in. But, we've gotten a lot of help from the community and allowing us to use our freezers and all to store those in so they'll be ready to go. So President Single and the local really does a phenomenal job with that every year. And each year they have stepped up their game to provide more and more for families in our community. And it just shows what a phenomenal job the local does with that. So we appreciate what he and the rest of the team does for the local and reaching out to do that. So,
okay, thank you, sir.
Go Clemson.
I don't want to steal all of the city manager's thunder, but did want to mention the annual economic development breakfast is January 10th, and I'll let him, yes, I know he wants to sell. And then I also want to mention that Mary Kelly from Habitat for Humanity went to Michigan last week, to speak to Habitat International at their annual conference. And she was asked to come to speak about the Female Veterans Project here in Cocoa. And they said that it was very, very phenomenal, and they're excited. And Ashley, considering her position for Habitat International, to do a Florida affiliate for other veterans villages within the state of Florida. And I want to mention that we hired Will Carbella for our assistant to the building official position. So we had 1 week that we were staffed until we lost our community services technician to code enforcement. But we did start our over-the-counter permitting. And so we've had some very happy contractors. They've able to come in and be able to pick up a permit while they wait.
Good.
So we just started that this week.
Yes,
So-
thank you, ma'am.
Hooray.
Jack,
I have no report tonight, sir.
Tammy?
No report.
Okay.
No report.
Monica, no?
Nope.
Mr. City Attorney?
No report.
Oh, wow. And Assistant City Manager?
Yeah, I just want to provide a quick report. I know some of you had received information related to the derelict vessel removal grant availability from Jerry Sansom. I did attend a workshop hosted by FWC about 2 weeks ago that not only covered that program, but also some procedural changes that they've developed related to already established laws that kind of better articulates what kind of enforcement action you may take within your jurisdiction. The city typically works with Brevard County to identify those vessels that are not only at risk, but then that have received the derelict status, and then the county submits an application for all of the vessels. There's pretty significant mobilization costs if you have a contractor motor all the way to Cocoa to remove one vessel and then go back. And so we typically partner with them, but right now we have, as of 2 weeks ago, we have 3 sunken vessels in our basin. One actually started on fire early in November here, burned down and then sunk, and then the other one washed up on the banks there at St. Mark's, and then the other was struck by lightning and sunk. So we are working with the county to get those out. So,
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager?
Just have 3 items, Mr. Mayor. One, I want to congratulate, Rebecca and the finance team, budget team, Laura Howe and Leah for the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. Appreciate the efforts. And as you all know, and for those that don't, on Tuesday, November 5th, the city held its first meeting of the Citizens Academy, whereby I think we had 21 residents, our first Citizens Academy, that going over topics such as the city charter, the structure and form of government, sunshine law, public records, open meetings, home rule. Then went over the city manager's office to include IT, leisure services, admin services, and HR. And then they'll be meeting every month, and their graduation, each month they'll go to a different area throughout the city. So we haven't announced the second class yet. If you are interested, make sure you get an application in, so when we start planning the second class, we will have a solid number of people within that class. 2 other things, just remind City Council, Friday, November 22nd, 10 a.m., we have a special City Council meeting. City Council, we are limiting, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, So we are limiting those items to, for the purposes of closing out our financials for fiscal year 2019. So there'll be no other items on the agenda other than those. And then Nancy mentioned the annual economic development update, January 10th. We all received an invite. We're pleased to announce that I think some of you attended previously. If you think of the benches, the traffic signal boxes, and the stormwater drains, that all came about through Cocoa Art Beats, which started with a gentleman that came and spoke, that actually speaks nationally, Peter Kajiyama. He has a new book out, The Emotional Infrastructure of Places, and he has agreed to come and be our speaker this year again. We're very fortunate because, again, it was 4 years ago that he spoke, and so I think the community will very much enjoy listening to Peter again and him talking about, his new book and the concepts and the themes as it relates to the emotional infrastructure of places. So that's the only thing that I have, Mr. Mayor.
What about last night, sir?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's that was a really awesome event. Last night, if you don't know, I'd say about about close to 5 years ago, myself, Matt, Dr. Jolie Smith, they've gone through a couple, but the superintendent, the Children's Home Society, and then I think it was Dr. Ellis, and Brevard Health Alliance, who's gone through a couple as well. Core partners to come together with the idea of applying for a community partnership school. The University of Central Florida, the community schools program, and it's based off of a national model, and it looks at the holistic needs of the student in terms of their academic, not just their academic, but also health, behavioral and otherwise, and social needs. And it's a process by which they go. And this past summer, on October 4th, it was announced, they went through certification review, and they actually are the third certified community partnership school in the state of Florida, and they were the first elementary school that became a community partnership school, so they're obviously the first elementary school that became certified. And through that program, one of the things I believe over the summer, we've talked about it in other meetings about that summer slide, and they in large measure to the resources and the parental engagement, and I think it was 88% gains actually in reading and 55% gains in math. So it's congratulations to Principal Reed, Dr. Pamphile, or Dr. P. We appreciate the Children's Home Society and the Brevard Public Schools, Brevard Health Alliance, Eastern Florida State College, UCF, Cocoa Community First, the NAACP, as well as the parents that are involved in helping make this happen. And we think it's really awesome, and I think it's really huge for the city, because education is the key, and that's what's going to help break that cycle of that low educational attainment, and that affects other areas such as poverty, crime, and unemployment. So we're really excited about that, and we will told Principal Reed that we'd like also Assistant Principal Mraz, bring them before City Council, because they certainly deserve to be recognized so the citizens can see, because they are doing some amazing things where there's actually teachers that want to go to Endeavor and they're talking about it in other places throughout the county about Endeavor Elementary. So we're really excited about that.
And then
Thank you,
also
Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Brown.
Oh, yes, and Mrs. Brown, she's one of the finalists for Teacher of the Year. So that's I think we have two in Cocoa.
Yeah, she's one of 6.
Don't steal my thunder.
And then also, okay.
Don't steal my thunder.
Yeah. That's why I knew she
idea
was.
what you're talking about.
I do. That's why I was like.
Well, we're talking about Miss Brown. Yeah, okay. But anyway, I just wanted to real quick, Chief Lamb, about the stair climb. I mean, that was a nice event. I really enjoyed that, and it was nice to see representation from Rockledge, Orlando, you know, just from all over, and all the folks that was volunteering from the Community Educators Credit Union and the Police Department, Sheriff Department, former Mayor Blake, and Deputy Mayor Warner was there as well, and Councilman Goins, and he actually walked.
I feel it.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed that, and I wanted to thank you guys for an awesome job. And also, we had our chili cook-off this past Friday, which was a nice event. There was a ton of folks there. I saw our PR person, Samantha, was there, and every time I saw her, she had a cup of chili in her hand. But it was a nice event. It was well attended. It was well attended, and just kudos to Emma Kirkpatrick and all the folks that was involved with that event as well. And then also, I just wanted to mention this one thing real quick. I said congratulations to our new deputy mayor, Mr. Goins, and our outgoing deputy mayor, Ms. Warner. And then also we have our space camp event coming up, and I'd love for some staff participation in this as well as all council. There's going to be on December the 22nd, if you're in town, from 12 to 3 p.m. There's going to be this, we're going to have an event with reference to our kids going to space camp. We got 11 scholars from here locally, and then we have 12 students from Bet Shemesh, Israel, which is our sister city, and they're here already. And they're meeting right now, like every Sunday they're meeting and sitting in the classroom, just getting educated and getting to know each other with reference to the, space and what they're going to be doing here.
What time?
And it's from 12 to 3. And that's on December the 22nd. There's going to be a guest speaker there. I'm not going to mention his name. That's going to be there because we're trying to keep that a secret. We don't want anyone to find out about it other than certain people know about it.
Where's it gonna be at?
It's gonna be, you know what, he doesn't have it on here, but I'll make sure that you all get that.
Okay.
I know it's gonna be local here, but I don't know exactly where it's gonna be at.
You just asked Terry or Monica to put it on our itinerary.
Yes, okay. But I'd like for everyone to be in attendance. It's gonna be a nice event. And but these kids are, like I said, they're meeting now. They're with their host families. They're all excited. I met with them a couple of Sundays ago out on Cocoa Beach or in Cape Canaveral, and I got to speak to some of the parents and the students, and they're all excited about this whole adventure. But with that being said, I'm just glad to have Mr. Ephraim still with us here. It's nice seeing him here, getting one of his badges and attending this city council meeting, and we're just so grateful and always trying to encourage the kids to.
He's still awake.
Yes, he is. But we thank you for being here. We really do appreciate you being here. With that being said,
Could I go first just so Tony can leave? 'Cause
yes, ma'am.
we
Go
kinda
ahead.
I'm sorry. The only reason I asked that you stay was because that solar workshop that I attended to, you were spoken about in glowing terms. David Dunn, of course, was there presenting from Orlando. And I also wanted to put on the radar screen what he talked about and the strategy that they're taking, where they're now, evidently they have the battery capacity. They're looking at larger vehicles coming out with these batteries, and they're investing in them as a way to, well, not only, use the electric vehicles, but in a storm or an emergency situation, they can actually be used as generator. It's something that I hadn't heard about, but this kind of bi-directional. So that's how they're justifying their investment in that. As the technology comes out, I'm sure it'll probably still be a while, but just wanted to put that on the radar screen. Thank you.
It's funny because Tony and I were having that conversation when we were in the back of the room before the meeting. He was giving me the details on
So it's
that.
already on everyone's radar screen. Okay. Okay, well, he seems to really appreciate you, so.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
The other thing, I attended the FH Florida Highway, what does the A stand for? FHW. Administration. Okay, so they had a bikeway selection guide workshop here in Cocoa. It was a full-day workshop, pretty good. Really gave me a sense about how important the multimodal approach. That's the kind of trendy word now. Trendy concept. That we have a lot of pathways that are continuous, that they connect, that, for bikes as well as walking and different forms of transportation. And that made me think, because I had also visited the Brevard, our historical museum on Michigan, and looked at the paths behind that and how nice they are and how they connect with the fire station and over to Eastern Florida State College. And Michigan itself being a wider road, having that beautiful canopy, nice place to bike. We've already done some work with those curvy sidewalks going down that corridor. We've got those nice trees coming up. And so I understand that you'll be looking at Michigan Avenue because that's currently a county road, so we have limited control over it. But there's maybe some opportunity there to increase our pathways.
Yeah, we'll kind of review the area, and we can probably work through TPO for some options as well as, and look at some pedestrian improvements through that.
So I'm looking forward to that coming back, because I've had a lot of good response to even just the 2 stop signs we put up there that has kind of quieted things down, made it more residential. And then the last thing I wanted to say was to congratulate Dr. Misty Martinez from the Cocoa High School Chorus. She is Teacher of the Year. Yeah. And I didn't get an opportunity to share with everyone that my husband and I did go to Carnegie Hall, and that was quite an experience to watch our own Cocoa High School students get a standing ovation in Carnegie Hall. And we spent time with them afterward, and I'll have to say that what struck me most about the experience of having, followed them these months as this has developed is how we, as a community, we really help to raise their expectations of what they can achieve in life. And I think that that's just, we elevated them, and I want to thank everyone again for doing that. And I think it elevates us as a community as our youth have higher aspirations. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Warner.
Yeah, I just want to say, Chief Lamb, please share my thanks to Alex for another great job on the stair climb. I know we always try and do it around 9/11, and a couple of times now we've been delayed because of storms. The people who were out there climbing that night really appreciated doing it in November because it was so much cooler. There was so much less sweat out there. And I know that turnout might not have been what it had been in the past because of the delays, but it's a great event, a lot of fun. Former Mayor Blake is one of the things that makes it so much fun. I personally, as the only member of this council with any Tiger Pride, appreciated the fact that he spent most of the time running up and down Mr. Goins about his dedication to the Rockledge Raiders at the Cocoa Rockledge game. So I just want to point out that our new deputy mayor supports the Rockledge Raiders over the Cocoa Tigers when it comes to football. So next year, you all keep that in mind when it comes time for the Cocoa Rockledge game. But Mr. Blake got even with him at the stair climb by pointing out how much trouble he was having about halfway through, struggling up and down because his calves were burning. But I do also want to recognize him as being the only member of the council that was out there climbing those stairs. So that has something to do with the fact that he's half the age of the rest of us, but that's okay. And I also want to thank the fire union for the donation that they made of $3,000 to Cocoa Community First. That was very generous of them. I know the union chooses where they donate their money, and the fact that they're willing to share that with Cocoa Community First for the programs of the police department, I think says a lot about our guys and how they feel about our city. And while we're on the subject of that, I want to remind everybody that November 23rd is the annual Chris Daniels Memorial Golf Tournament at Turtle Creek. We have just about everything we need except golfers. So hopefully we have some firefighters who golf and some public works people who golf. And I think that maybe this year, I was out there last year, and we didn't have any teams of women, and I don't know why not. We have a lot of female golfers in this community, so I'd like to see some teams of women come out. It's time to stop letting them in win all the great prizes, because they do have some really good prizes. So if we could get some teams to come out and golf on the 23rd, it's a shotgun start at 8 a.m., and you can sign up on the police department's page, I think Facebook page, or you can call Yvonne over at the police department. And Thanksgiving Day, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, is when we partner with Walmart to start the toy drive out at the Cocoa Walmart. If you haven't been out there for that, you'd be amazed at how many people are shopping at 4 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day before they even get a nap after turkey. I don't know how they do that, but they do a great job of going in and doing their own shopping and buying toys. So if you haven't been out to watch that, come out and enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. We play a lot of music, get a lot of people to come out and start their holiday season off right by donating to people that are less fortunate. And I'd also like to congratulate Officer Sage Gray on her move to the Community Resource Unit and obtaining her new partner, K9 Copper. It's going to be very interesting for Officer Gray to have a partner for the first time. And to Detective Chris Hadaway for his move to the Detective Bureau. Hopefully that'll boost up that department and we can start to get some of these cases a second look. And I think that, I spoke this afternoon to our Endeavor teacher, Kathy Hamilton Brown, who was the finalist for Teacher of the Year. For those who don't know her, there's nobody with more enthusiasm for the students at Endeavor than Kathy, and that was a well-deserved recognition that she got. And so I'm sure she's still really, really happy from that. So I just want to say I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, Miss Kathy, and I know you will still have a big smile on your face because that was a well-deserved recognition that you got. And I think that is it for me now that I've alerted everybody to Mr. Goins's, Deputy Mayor Goins's being a traitor when it comes to Cocoa football.
Thank you, ma'am. And just remember, Mr. Goins, you get Deputy Mayor Goins, you get one name tag and one shirt. I'm just saying. But anyway, we're gonna get with one of the print shops and see if we can't have a tagger that's designed with the colors of baby blue, silver, and white. So anyway, sir, go ahead.
First, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Warner for the nomination. Appreciate it.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry, Mr. Greenwood. First, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Warner for the nomination for Deputy Mayor. I appreciate.
Actually, it was Don. I just seconded it. It was Don. He did it.
Oh, well, I'll take it back. Well, I appreciate you, Mr. Bover. Thank you. I really appreciate my time on council. Oh, God, here you go. I've been on council for a year, and I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all the arguments. I appreciate the debates. I appreciate all the positive and negatives about being on council, because I think that's what it's about. We all fighting for the same cause for the citizens of Cocoa, so I appreciate all of you. The stair climb was great. I really enjoyed it. I brought my daughter and her friend out, so imagine trying to talk 13-year-olds walking upstairs, because I didn't really tell her where we was going, and she wore jeans, so I wasn't her best friend last week. But I really appreciate Mr. Jason Moreland, that's my guy. I graduated with him at Rockledge High School, and I just walking behind him was my motivation. I mean, he had 50, 60 pounds on him, and we both was kind of encouraging each other all night long. So he was pushing me, and he had a lot more weight on than I did. But I appreciate all the firefighters for what you do. Walking those steps, it makes you realize how hard your job really is, because sometimes people assume that it's simple and easy, but it's not. Yeah. By the time I got to the top, that third step, oh my Lord, my calves almost fell off. But I appreciate the event. Mr. Smith, Brian Smith, 315 Stone Street. The trees are kind of overgrown. I don't know if this is an asplund problem or not, where trees are overgrown. So in the back of our house is covering all the lights that we have on the poles, and her backyard is totally dark right now. I guess she's been complaining about it for a while, and so now she went off on me this morning. So I took it. So please just go by, knock on the door. That'll be great. Her name is Miss Bell, Tammy Bell. Yeah, so, I mean, maybe like I said, maybe an Asplund problem, or maybe something we can do. I don't really know, but
we'll take a look. Normally, we maintain within the right of way. If there's power lines in the back, we can help make contact with FPL.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. What else we had? I think that was all. Well, I had a question for consensus, because I know we can't really talk about this away from here, but how does council feel about the city of Cocoa taking over our parks in our city? How do y'all feel about it, or if you want to even discuss that or not? What's your thoughts on it?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment about that, because many, many years ago, under Mayor Mike Hill, we established a Parks and Recreation Advisory Board whose job it was to take a look at our parks and look at what the cost would be to the city to take over the operation of those parks. The chairman of that first Parks and Recreation Advisory Board was Ms. Janetz, as a matter of fact. And we spent a couple of years touring the parks, looking at the costs associated with buying the equipment and getting the staff. And that board at that time decided that it was not financially feasible for the city to do it. However, things have changed since then. We already do a lot more, and we already have leisure services and an expansion of the public works into some of the parks that we did not have at that time. So maybe we want to take another look at it, let the staff bring us some information about what those associated costs might be, how many additional employees we would need to hire and all that stuff. I mean, I remember, as a matter of fact, Jan and I were talking about it tonight after the CRA meeting. We remember how detailed we got in that committee meeting and all the financial aspects, because it wasn't just a matter of, because at that time we had absolutely no equipment to do what was necessary for the parks. We had no employees. We had nothing. That has changed. So maybe we just ask the staff to maybe update information, take a look and see what the cost, because there is a huge cost associated with it. The county gets special tax money. I don't know if we can get that, or we can stop paying that special tax. So those are all things we probably need to look at. I know I am not satisfied and have not been for years with the job that the county does for us.
Right. And I think it's something that we need to probably look at in a workshop where they can bring some numbers back, bring some data back to us, because I could tell you I'm not satisfied with a couple of parks, and I ride through those parks all the time, and there are some that are well maintained, or they're kept up, and there's some that are grossly neglected. And but I do know that the Brevard County Parks and Recs employees that do go out there and and have to clean up after certain events. I know they bust their butts doing that, but still at the same time, I'm looking at some of the conditions of our parks, and they certainly need to be addressed. But I think it's something we should probably do in a workshop where we can all sit around and discuss, and they could bring us some data, and then we could just kind of go from there.
And that's another thing, I don't think any of us have any issues with the Parks and Recreation employees.
Right.
We know they do their job. It's a matter of the investment that county
yeah.
management has made in the maintenance of our parks and the money that they put into them. And I think, Matt, don't you sit on a committee or something with the?
Yeah, and in fact, I was just discussing this with the city manager earlier today regarding bringing back, a history of the District 4 taxing district, as well as what's occurred since the 70s, 60s. So you are all aware of the situation that we currently find ourselves in, and then also in a workshop setting, I think it would be prudent to then explore what would it take for the city to, bring that maintenance and programming within the city, because there is a lot to consider related to that. We did last year. We worked with a contractor that provides maintenance, full-scale maintenance of parks, and we asked them for quotes. We supplied them all the information and provided them the budgetary numbers that would be passed through from the county. And just from the maintenance side, they couldn't provide the level of service we were looking for what our residents are paying for that District 4 tax, let alone the recreational services. So the programming within the community centers, as well as, facility rentals and whatnot. Some of that we could do through leisure services, but it's really that the recreational staff, lifeguards, there's a lot to consider. So
Okay.
a workshop.
And I would just like to add to that, because we haven't mentioned this thus far, but we're doing this comprehensive modeling study of COCO. We're doing this master parks plan. We're starting to realize that our parks provide us with ecosystem services that are that help us in our resiliency as well, build our community assets. So maybe there are other things that we haven't considered in terms of investing in our parks. And I'm certainly in support of that and having a workshop.
Oh, yeah, because I brought it up because I'm really kind of tired of how they treat the parks in the city of Cocoa. Because I go other places all the time. Because I'm still coaching youth football, so I travel everywhere. And the things I see outside of Cocoa, it could be Merritt Island and other places, it's like night and day. So I just want to bring that up, and I think we could be going in the right direction with this conversation. I don't know about the cost. I know it will be a cost, but something like, the bathrooms are not open when a person is renting a park, and then they call me, and I have to call the Parks and Recs, and they don't have anybody at work. Now I look like a fool, because don't you own the park? There's a certain question they ask me, and I can't provide what they need. They're supposed to close the gate on Fern and Prospect, and when it get dark, they haven't done that. But then you go to Merritt Island and other places, the gates are locked. So the way they treat the city of Cocoa is absolutely ridiculous, and we are allowing it. And that's the problem that I have is I know we can't control everything, but I just know that we love the city. We're in the city. We need to protect our city. So whatever we need to do, we need to do it. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to beat this up. I'll tell you, when I go there and there's a big soccer event going on and it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon and the restrooms are locked.
Yeah, man.
And you just have to imagine what's happening after that, and you've got several hundred people there. It's kind of ridiculous because, hey, we get off at 2 o'clock or we're leaving at 2 or whatever the case might be. That's not acceptable to me when you're renting a facility out. And
But I'm done. That was my last thing. So Again, appreciate everybody for coming out. Appreciate you, Ms. Gibson, for speaking tonight. I think we all been there before. I know I definitely have. I'm like, why are they up there approving everything? They don't even know what they're doing, right? That's how I felt, right? But just kind of let you know that we get this agenda usually on Fridays. So we usually spend all weekend kind of going over every single line item. So when you hear certain question that we ask, if you don't hear anything, that means we already okay with it. So I understand where you're coming from, and I really, really seriously appreciate you getting up saying what you said, because like I said, I've been there before. So appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just one thing. I just want to let council know that we're currently negotiating with Brevard County for the maintenance agreement. We can put that on hold pending the outcome of the workshop.
Yes.
Okay.
And we could wait to have the conversation with the county until they get finished with the project we asked Mr. Loper to do for us. Thank you. You might stop.
Okay, if I can,
I didn't talk yet.
oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Bover.
I know, save the best for last.
You're so quiet, I totally
I just
missed
gotta,
you.
I know what I have to wait, now I forgot what I had to say. Between everybody talking, can I borrow your list? I just want to thank the chief and the fire department for coming out at Lost Lakes for our crime watch meeting. Had a good turnout, and the people were really impressed, and we had some good answers from the police department and the fire department. The CRU unit did a great job, and so did the fire department. The people had some good questions, and they were all answered, and got a good thumbs up on it. So I want to thank you guys for coming out there. It was really good. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for coming out. And with that being said, motion to adjourn.
Oh, God, I didn't think you were ever going to stop. We got a motion adjourned. Deputy Mayor Goins, all in favor signify by saying aye.
You son of a...